What is up, family? Welcome back to another episode of the podcast. I am your host, as you know, Dr. Daniel Kimbley, and I'm going to share something with you that I have not done before ever on a podcast episode that I've ever recorded, and that is I want to break down my top 10 lessons of 2025. This year has not been easy. It has tested me. It has broken me. It has frustrated me. It has lifted me up. But all the best parts is that it's made me a stronger follower of Jesus. It's made me a better husband, a better business owner, a better dad, and just a better human being all around. Let's jump in. Number one, God always provides down to the last penny. I have a tax strategy that I do every single year where we write a $21,000 check. I won't give you the actual strategy because I'm not the tax strategist, nor do I want to be giving you financial information that is not mine to share with you. And so legally, I'm not going to give you the strategy, but what I'm going to tell you is that there's a $21,000 check that we write every single year. And one of the things that I did this year, because we've been stretched and business has been interesting with its highs and with its lows, is when we went to write this check, I did not want to pull money out of my savings account in order to cover the check for the tax strategy. So instead of pulling money out of my savings account, what I did, even though we had the money there, was we kind of blindly just wrote the check. And it got to the point where I'm like, man, if this check comes out the same day that payroll comes out and the same day that rent comes out, we may literally bounce our checking accounts and then have to pull from savings to cover it. And this is the craziest part of all of it, is that when you trust God with your money, He will do more than you could ever do possibly on your own. So the coolest thing about writing this big check is that it takes days for the banks to clear on one side, and it takes days for the banks to clear on the other side, and everything went through perfectly. And it's just one of those tiny little examples to remind you and to remind myself that God will always take care of your every need down to every penny. And I guarantee if you looked at your life, that you would probably notice a similar trend, that you've always been taken care of, even when it feels scary, even when it feels like it's not going to work out. And the reason is because God cares about you. So if you are stressed specifically in the area of finances, I would encourage you that you are not in control. It's not your money in the first place, that it's actually God's, and He can do more with it than you can. So start trusting Him more with your bank account and watch the peace that comes into your life. Number two, you must be tested before you can be trusted. Another financial conversation, but one of the things that happened this year is in the midst of an audit by the California Employment Department and us having a massive six-figure tax bill, I had this moment when I went to write that six-figure check where I was literally stressing out. Again, same conversation as number one. I didn't want to pull money from our savings, even though we had it. And I had this moment of stress where I'm like, I was using my bank accounts to define me. Watching it be drained with this huge tax bill that we had was one of the biggest stresses that I've ever had in my entire life. And as I'm feeling frustrated and I'm feeling almost worthless as a business owner and asking God the question of like, how do we get into this mess? How did this happen? And this has nothing to do with audit. This was just our normal tax bill. What I found in prayer as I was walking one morning, and God said this to me. He showed me something so special that I had to share it with you because the takeaway from it is huge, is this. When I was walking and praying and asking God in frustration, why did this happen? Why do we have such this massive tax bill? He said, Daniel, I've given you a vision for your life and you know what that vision looks like. And He said, that vision is going to require you to write this check every single month. And the moment hit me like a ton of bricks because I realized in that moment that I did not trust Him. And what I wanted to build in my life, if I had it right now today, it would probably completely destroy me and my relationships and my mindset. And I wouldn't be able to show up as the best version of myself. Why? Because I needed the testing before I could be trusted. And so if you are wondering why you may be stuck at a certain point, if you're wondering why things aren't going the way you wanted them to go or you expected them to go, maybe it's just that you're actually building the character traits to get you to the place that you will eventually be. And the best part of it is this, it's just like lifting weights, is that as you lift the heavy weight, you get stronger to be able to bear more. And that's when the fruit actually comes. So stop being frustrated by the testing. Stop being frustrated by the challenges. Start embracing them and saying, God, thank you for building me into more of who you need me to be so that I can serve more people, so that I can serve my family better, so that I can be happier in the long run. Number 3, play the long game always. I did just over a year ago, I did my first ever bodybuilding men's physique competition. It was one of the most challenging things that I had ever done in my life. And I remember standing in the spray booths with other athletes around me, all guys, most of them who had been it had been their first competition ever. And one of the things that came up is I started asking these guys, I'm like, hey, how long have you been training to be in this show? Each of these guys are like, I've been training 2 years. I've been training 3 years. And they're way bigger muscularly than I was. And I had this moment of realization is that playing the long game is super key. Like these guys had known for 2 to 3 years prior that they were going to be in that show on that weekend that I was in. And the funniest part of it is that I spent only 6 months prepping. And I looked great. It's the best shape I've ever been in my life, like physically looking. And at the same time, I got my butt kicked on stage. Why? Because I wasn't willing to play the long game. I thought I could prep in 6 months. And the same is true for your business. Most people think that with what they see on Instagram and what they see on TikTok is that they can somehow build a multi-million-dollar industry just off of ChatGPT alone, which some people can do that. I would probably call it luck for the most part. But like the reality is that doesn't happen for every single person. It's possible for every single person, but the possibility comes in the sense of playing the long game. And so I would encourage you is stop living for the next short quick fix or the next short hack and start thinking about the future and how to play the long game so you can be in this for the long haul. Because what I know is that whether it's building a relationship with God, or whether it's building a relationship with a spouse, or whether it's building your physical body, or it's creating health inside of your body, whatever it is, all of those things take a commitment to the long term. It's never something that happens overnight. Next up, your standards set everyone else's temperature. This year has been more than a struggle and more than the biggest learning and growth I've ever had in terms of leading a team, what it means to be a leader, what it means to be a business owner, and actually truly lead people in a way that matters. One of the things that I had to do this year, which I've had to do in the past, is we had to let go of 2 employees. And here's the interesting and sad part about the conversation. We live by a set of core values as a family, and one of those core values is congruency. And what I realize is that when we say congruency, how we define that is that we do what we say we're going to do. And one of the things that I had realized as a leader is that I would say I would do certain things, but then I would never follow through on those. And so the temperature that set for the team is that they didn't have to follow through on those things either. And so this year, I realized that if I hold myself to a standard of always doing what I say I'm going to do, then if I don't hold someone else to that standard, then that would be me not following through on that sense of congruency in the first place. So here's what I mean by this. Is we had a contract with one of our employees. They did not hit the pieces of that contract that needed to be met. And in the contract, it said at the end of 90 days, I will have to let you go and we will part ways if this thing doesn't happen. And the reality is that as hard as it was to do, it was one of the most challenging conversations I've ever had as a business owner ever. And the hardest part of it is like, this was an amazing person that we had to let go. But the conversation was this, is that if I don't do what I said I was going to do in the contract, what does that say to the rest of the team? And what does it say about my core values of doing what I said I was going to do? And so I leave you with that because oftentimes people get frustrated because they don't hold themselves to the same standard that they hold other people to. And my challenge and my charge for you is this, is that if you have a certain set of standards for yourself, hold other people in your life to that and watch how your life expands in all ways possible. And this is the special part. You can do this with your family. You can do this with your employees. You can do this with your friends. You can do it with yourself. And when you start to apply the principles that you live by and stand by, watch the world around you change for the better. It always does, even when it's hard and frustrating. I didn't want to have those conversations, but we set the temperature for the life that we live. Number 5, obedience to God is everything. This is the craziest part about obedience, is that obedience creates peace even when it doesn't make sense. Earlier this year, it's been about 6 or 7 months ago now, I was asked by God very, very clearly in prayer to give up surfing. And this came from a conversation where I was asking God, why isn't my business where it needs to be? This is the thing that most people don't understand, is that I think everybody sees entrepreneurs from the outside and they think they have it all figured out, and they have the nice car and they have a nice business and they have lots of clients and their practice is busy and whatever. But the reality is it's still freaking hard because all of us want to build to the next level. And I think this is the stuff that nobody talks about. So as I'm praying to God in my frustration, saying, God, why isn't our business where I want it to be? Why haven't we grown more this year? Why are there still all these struggles? Why do we have struggles with the team? And I'm just complaining to God. And he said, Daniel, if you want to build what I want you to build, then why don't you give up surfing? And surfing is something to me that living in Southern California, it became like a piece of pride. It became a piece of arrogance as I got better. I cared almost more about surfing than I did other things in my life. And what I did is I made surfing an idol. And so God said, if you're willing to give it up, then I will help you build the business that you want to build. And I will help you achieve some of the things that I've showed you that you can achieve. And here's the craziest part of all of it is that it took me 2 months to be obedient to that call to stop surfing. And I can remember standing in my garage, holding my surfboard in my arms like an addict. And God is like, how many times am I going to ask you to stop doing this thing? And I'm like, okay, God, one more time, just one more time. So I surfed that Sunday, I stopped surfing, I haven't surfed since, and here's the craziest part is I thought in my head that I was gonna grind harder in business, that I was gonna spend all my free time marketing and working on the business more, and this is what God showed me. He said, actually, I just wanted you to spend that time with me. And this is the coolest part of all of it. If I hadn't stopped surfing, and I had continued to do it, my life would have been stressful, but the peace that I gained from spending more time with God actually allowed me to make better decisions for my business. It actually allowed me to not destroy relationships with people who I very much care about, who we unfortunately had to let go. It allowed me to show up for my team in a way where there was more peace and more patience, and this overflows to my family and every single client that we take care of. And the lesson in that is this: when God asks you to lay something down, it is never a loss. It is always preparation. Number 6, you have to have a bigger vision than what your current reality is. In this season of life, God has given my wife and I separately the same vision for what our home life will look like, what our practice life will look like. And one of the things that was easy early on in entrepreneurship and in business and having my own practice was that I knew exactly what success would look like. And I knew there would be a line out the door, and I had the exact vision of it. And because I was so clear on that vision, and I knew exactly what to do to get there, things happened very, very easily. It was it was a struggle, but not as much of a struggle as most people would imagine. What's been much harder in this season of life for me is that there is a massive vision, but the how to get there is a huge question mark. And this is the part that I'm learning, is that when you have a vision and you can impart that to your team and share with them in clear detail of here's where it looks like for where we're going, and then be willing to say the most important piece is that I have no idea how to get there, but as a team, we figure it out together. This is what you're paying people on your team to do. Most people hire people to do tasks. They pay them for, if they're spending an hour doing XYZ, then they should get XYZ done in that hour. But the reality is like the next level unlock that I've had in business this year is saying, hey team, I don't know how to do this. For instance, our office manager is amazing at booking events and creating events. And one of the things that she's done very, very well this year is create opportunities for me to get on more people's podcasts and have more people on this podcast that you're watching. And so I didn't know how to do that, but she's figured it out on her own. So I share this with you because as we have a bigger vision and as we create that for people, what we see is that we're giving autonomy to the team to help create and be a part of the vision versus just hiring people to do tasks. And this has been a next level unlock for me because I don't have to be the one who knows it all, and I don't have to be the one who solves it all, because it creates a space of collaboration. It creates a space of partnership. It creates a space where it's just more fun and more freeing because the whole world now doesn't rest on my shoulders as an entrepreneur. Create a vision so big that your team becomes key in building it and it doesn't just rest on you. Number 7, people matter more than anything. Next level breakthrough that I've had this year, I've never thought about this before in this way, is every time I thought this is how I thought about people, is someone would come into my business, they would pay us money, and then that money is how we would support the team and we would support our own lives, and that was the relationship. But I've realized something much more powerful is that every interaction I have with someone who walks into my practice, who I meet on the streets, it doesn't matter where it is that those relationships are actually an opportunity to bring more of what the Bible talks about, which is heaven and peace on earth. And so looking at people and looking at relationships as the most important thing that matters is that it doesn't matter if someone starts care with me. It doesn't matter if someone says yes or no to chiropractic. It doesn't matter if someone says yes or no to being my friend or collaborating or whatever the thing may be that you're looking for inside of your life. What matters is that I showed up at 100%. And here's what I know is that every time I show up at 100%, whether or not the person chooses to do business with me or not to do business with me or be friends with me or not be friends with me or whatever the circumstance is that because I knew that my inputs were at 100%, I have peace, I have certainty, I have clarity, and I know it's not a rejection of me. And what it spills over to is that you get to continue to build the relationships that actually matter. And so when I have peace, my daughter has more peace because I'm happier when I'm at home. When I have peace, my wife has more peace, and I show up better for her when I'm at home. Because I know in every interaction, I'm giving my 100% that day to be the best version of myself. And when I show up for everybody that way, it becomes palpable. And the coolest part of it is that when you focus on relationships and you care about people, regardless of what they think about you, your business will likely grow as well. If you lost everything tomorrow, you only have two things. And the two things would be this, is your skill sets and your mindsets, which I would argue that you can go out at any time and gain more of. And two, your relationships. And relationships are key because when you have healthy relationships and you show up for people with a heart of love and service, those relationships, regardless of if you lost everything else, will still be there and likely be the things that maintain you through all of it. So this is my favorite one. So people are going to judge you no matter what. So just make sure you do what God asks you to do and not worry about all the static and all this stuff that's on the outside. So people are going to judge you no matter what. Whether you have an expensive watch or whether you don't, whether you have a crappy car or whether you have a nice car, it does not matter. You're going to be judged no matter what. So you might as well do whatever you are called to do. And if you're not getting judged, then you're probably not going full out in your calling and your purpose and what God has brought you here to do in your life in the first place. This year, I have been given a massive vision for what my life could look like. What I don't have for that vision is a timeline, is a how to get there, is a what steps does it need to take to get me from point A to point B to point C. The frustration has been for me is that since I don't know how to get from where we are to where I have been shown we can go, I have had a very difficult time believing that it's actually possible for me. I would argue that I have all the skill sets in business and the understanding in business to actually get us there. But the part that I'm lacking in a moment of full vulnerability is the belief that it's actually possible because the vision is so big. And this is where I see a lot of entrepreneurs struggle, is because they see the Instagram reels of the multi-million-dollar businesses and they see the Lambos and the expensive watches and the expensive houses. And a lot of times people don't believe that's possible for them, even if it's subconscious. And when we don't believe it's possible for us, we get stuck doing things that make us feel safe and comfortable versus stepping out. And the stepping out into the unknown is literally just a mindset thing. So believing that it's possible for you, having faith and trust that God can deliver on the promises in your life is arguably a cheat code to being successful. And if you don't believe me, go listen to the other high-level entrepreneurs who are not teaching tactical stuff, but they'll actually say this time and time and time and time again, that your mindset is the most important thing, more important than any skill, more important than any course, more important than anything that you could possibly have is how you think about yourself, how you think about the world, and how you think about what can God bring into your life. You don't need more skills. You need a bigger mindset that matches the size of the calling that God put on your life. Lastly, in the middle of the word calling is all in. Partial effort gives you partial results. If I know one thing, this year, I have committed to things that I will be unrelenting to accomplish, to figure out, to achieve, and I'm basically willing to, at all costs, go all in on those things. Some of them being building more of a personal brand, some of them being building more of the vision inside of our business. The only way to win in 2026 is to go all in, and all in is in the middle of your calling. If you're listening to this, my encouragement for you in 2026 is to obey God more. Go all in on your calling. Trust your instincts. Give up the things that are no longer serving you or creating stress inside of your life. Build your mindset over building more skill sets. Spend your time fostering healthy relationships. They're literally the most important thing. And go all in on more of who God called you to be. I guarantee you it will not just pay dividends in 2026, but it will pay dividends for years and years to come. Your best year does not come from doing more. It comes from doing what God has called you to do.